90% of tech workers who try to escape the corporate matrix fail completely. The cycle usually starts around midnight on a Tuesday. You watch a 10-minute Next.js tutorial, the syntax clicks, and you experience the sudden, overwhelming delusion that you are a 10x engineer destined to build the next unicorn startup. You quit your stable $95,000 a year job to bet your life on a Figma wireframe nobody asked for. You've decided that salary is the enemy, and you're liquidating your savings to outrun it. You enter the honeymoon phase. Instead of talking to a single potential user, you spend 3 weeks setting up an LLC and agonizing over a $12 .ai domain name. The name doesn't matter, but you dedicate an entire weekend to it anyway. You build a rapid deployment pipeline and meticulously map out a pristine Prisma database. It has 0 rows of actual user data, but the schema is flawless. Every single commit feels like forward motion. You're hunting for ultimate independence, but your strategy involves removing every safety net between your daily life and a total lack of runway. You haven't bought your freedom. You have traded the padded safety of the corporate structure for absolute, unbounded personal exposure. This animated diagram breaks down the solo SaaS iceberg. Right now, we are looking at the bright, sunny surface layer. This is where you file your LLC, buy your domain, and write your clean code. This top layer represents the builder trap. You spend months writing perfectly typed code and configuring color palettes without ever speaking to a human being. Building feels like progress, but it's completely isolated. Then comes the launch. You push the landing page to production. Analytics show 3 visitors. 2 are you testing different browsers, and 1 is your mom. You have exactly 0 active users. This pie chart illustrates a massive disconnect in the founder journey. Survey data from indie hackers shows that 87% of founders admit they built their product based purely on their own assumptions, usually a 3 a.m. shower thought, rather than actual market research. The critical flaw happens in validation. Founders ask people, "Would you pay for this?" The polite answer is always yes. Instead, they should be looking for people who are already spending money on broken alternatives. The highest tier validation strategy requires 0 coding. You scrape G2, comb through frustrated App Store reviews, and dig into Reddit threads. You hunt specifically for actual, documented user complaints. True market signals are loud. People actively complain about the same software issues, share complicated workarounds, and beg for better tools in public forums. They are clearly defining the exact product they will pay for. The deciding factor between a SaaS that scales and one that dies has almost nothing to do with execution quality. It depends entirely on whether the problem you are solving actually exists in the real world. Executing an S-tier solution for an imaginary problem still yields exactly $0. Those first 6 months of grinding in isolation were completely worthless. We pan down into the mid-depths of the iceberg. This is where the first real money appears, and the dashboard finally hits $1,200 in monthly recurring revenue. You have reached ramen profitability. Your physical survival is secured, but nothing else. Getting to this number requires enslaving yourself. You are the sole engineer pushing updates, the support tech answering tickets at midnight, and the marketing agent writing threads on X. Your personal life evaporates. You skip holidays, you drop off group chats, and your social connection dies a tragic, irreversible death, much like Harambe. Every Sunday, you sit down to do the runway math. It is a psychological torture ritual where you calculate exactly how many months of savings you have left before you face total eviction. Then the churn treadmill starts. If you lose 6% of your users every month, you have to constantly acquire new ones just to keep your revenue flat. You are sprinting simply to stay in the exact same place. You hire a part-time designer for $45 an hour. She fixes in 1 afternoon what you spent a year second-guessing. You realize that multiplying yourself is the only way out of the operational bottleneck you've created. By sacrificing everything to escape a 9-to-5, you have successfully built a digital cage where you work 100 hours a week for less than minimum wage. We drop into the absolute bottom of the iceberg, the abyss. This is where the unspoken psychological damage lives. Reddit founder communities are filled with the symptoms. It's severe anxiety, scraping the edge of homelessness, and waking up at 6 a.m. every day in a state of quiet background terror. Because you tied your survival to your code, the exposure is total. When a customer sends a support ticket insulting the software, it bypasses your logic and registers as a direct attack on your soul. You are working on something complex that your friends and family completely fail to understand. You have to show up to dinner and pretend everything is fine, while silently managing the chaos alone. From the outside, the metrics look solid. Revenue is up, the team is growing. But internally, you sit at your desk and feel completely hollow. One founder described sitting in his car at a service station, coffee in hand. He had hit every arbitrary milestone he set out to achieve and realized he'd built his entire company based on what he thought he should do, not what he actually wanted. The most profound failure happens after the money starts coming in, when you realize you've spent 3 years of brutal work building a life that feels completely hollow. Winning at this game requires you to treat the startup as a strict exercise in risk control, prioritizing stability over the pure thrill of the build. The pragmatic approach is defensive. You keep your $95,000 day job. You limit your cash burn. You treat the entire startup as a slow, methodical operations problem rather than a life or death mission. Moving slowly keeps your runway infinite. It allows you to stay mentally intact long enough to actually talk to your users and refine your product without the threat of financial ruin hanging over your keyboard. The trade-off is that this path is completely unglamorous. You lose the ability to brag about your all-in alpha grind set on Twitter. This tier list categorizes where you belong based entirely on your psychological endurance. The S-tier path is reserved exclusively for people who can tolerate extreme isolation, operate with zero external feedback, and prioritize solving actual user pain over playing with cool tech stacks. If you require external validation, a stable 401k, and uninterrupted sleep, stay in the soy-based corporate job. This has been the Raw Deep Tech. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.